Hi, it's Thursday, July 24th, and we have three systems active in the West Pacific today. The first one is Tropical Storm, likely Typhoon Kome, which we're going to be talking about first. I'm going to be calling this system by its Philippine name, which is Emong, as the system will be primarily impacting the Philippines over the next day or so. We've also got Tropical Storm Francisco moving northwest, nearing the southern Japanese islands. This system will be bringing tropical storm force winds, heavy rainfall to these islands in Taiwan as it goes throughout the next few days. And there is finally newly formed TD12 near the Mariana Island chain in the tropical Pacific. This system we're not going to talk about all too much today, as it's being sheared quite strongly. It is not forecast to do all too much for the next few days as it gradually lifts north. But starting in the South China Sea with Typhoon Emong, you can see the system has made quite a bit of progress since my video last night, or yesterday morning rather. When I made that video, the system was sitting north of Luzon and was a disorganized system, not even designated as a tropical system by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center by that point. And we talked about how the system was likely going to be limited for the most part in how much it intensified because of its proximity to land and its proximity to Tropical Storm Francisco as it revolves around the parent monsoon gyre that these two storms are embedded within. Though we did mention that there was an exception to that, and that was if the system was able to get far enough from Francisco to separate it from the very strong interaction these systems would have if the system was still a little bit closer, more northeast of where it is right now. And unfortunately, we saw that happen yesterday, and the system is now well southwest of where it was forecast to go. The European run that I was showing yesterday had it by today over here near the coast of west central Luzon, but now we're well southwest of that, well offshore. And this has had two impacts. The first is that the system is now, like I mentioned, further away from Francisco, so there's less of an interaction there, but it's also further away from the landmass, so it's not interacting as strongly with this landmass today than it would be if it was near the landmass. And if we look at microwave data, we've seen the system now build an eye wall structure. Now, we haven't seen the system develop beyond this point much at all. You can see we do have on this microwave pass this eye wall, but infrared imagery does not really show anything all too impressive. We just see a bunch of bursting convection that seems to be a little bit stuck, maybe on the southeast or eastern side of this eye. And the reason for that might be a little bit of northerly shear. We talked about this upper low, this backing west into eastern China yesterday, and it's impinging a little bit of northerly shear upon the system. And you can see if you look underneath these cirrus clouds just south of Taiwan, there's some clouds being pushed to the south, and this has been persisting for the past day. So far, it's not had a significant impact on it, but maybe with that convection seemingly stuck, we're now getting some impact of that. It's also possible that we do see some dry air try and get entrained as the flow, as the system continues to get closer to Luzon, it's going to be moving down slope of the mountainous terrain here. When that happens, the air dries out, and that can be entrained into the storm and disrupt the thunderstorm activity within it. I think for now we're seeing more of a shear impact, but that is something to note as the system does come towards land. And so for intensity, things are a little bit uncertain. This system is small, so small systems are more susceptible to the impacts of vertical shear like this, but all things considered, the shear is not all too strong. And if the system is able to wrap this convection successfully again, we may see another quicker phase of intensification before the system comes into landfall later tonight along Luzon. And so models are a little bit split right now, but the best thing to go off of is just the fact that it is a typhoon right now, and this shear is not likely to cause it to weaken all too much. So in all likelihood, the system will be a typhoon when it comes into the western coast of Luzon. Again, tonight is the expected time frame of that. This is the track forecast from Pagasa as of 5 a.m. local time, and you can see remaining a typhoon pretty much up to landfall here by 2 a.m. Friday is the current forecast. And it's a little bit uncertain onto exactly where the system is going to come ashore. Unfortunately, this approach angle is a little bit more difficult to predict that with. A very small shift north or south now can make a huge difference on where the system comes ashore. And that's going to be pretty big because the system is, like I mentioned, compact. So the strongest winds are not going to be across a very big area. And you can see that if we look at the H-Wharf model. This is one of the hurricane specialized models that we have for these systems. And you can see just how compact this wind field is. The typhoon force wind field here, if I take a measurement, um, it only extends about 20 kilometers away from the center of the storm on this model forecast. And so that's going to be a very compact ball of very strong winds coming in. And the exact landfall spot is huge in determining who gets that strong wind. Now, what's not going to be changing all too much from track is the heavy rainfall we can expect. We can still expect very heavy rainfall with this as it does come ashore, especially as it buds up against the high terrain here. And we could be seeing totals exceeding 3, 4, 500 millimeters of rainfall in some localized spots on top of all the rainfall we've already gotten over the past week. Finally, for this system, you can see the watches and warnings in place from Pagasa. They have raised some Signal 3 warnings along the southwest coast of the northern Philippines, but a large area of Signal 2 warnings, and they'll continue to update this throughout the day. I'd imagine we'll see very soon, probably when this video comes out, an expansion of the Signal 3 warnings further north, and I'll leave a link to the Pagasa website so you can go to there and see the latest advisory information, as it's very possible that by the time this video comes out, this is already outdated, as they issue these every 3 hours, and I'm recording this around 7:40 a.m. local time, so a new one will likely come out very soon. Now, the next system is Tropical Storm Francisco near the southern Japanese islands. You can see the system spinning here, getting pretty close to the coast of these islands. And this system we talked about may have had the potential to intensify as it came northwest, but we have seen a shift in that with the changes we've seen in Emong for the southwest. You can see in water vapor imagery, again, we have this upper low that's backing west, and this is providing some good divergent flow off north. And that normally would allow the system to intensify. But the uncertainty was that we didn't know that Emong was going to be intensifying. And you can see this stream of cirrus clouds coming up right into the center of Francisco, and that's shearing the system apart from the southwest. So that's good news. The system is not likely to intensify much at all, though it is still a tropical storm, and we have plentiful showers of storms on the northeast side, and we can expect tropical storm force winds and heavy rainfall to spread across the southern Japanese islands throughout the day today. And it's possible we do see these rotate around and get into Taiwan as we head into your Friday, as the system is, like I mentioned yesterday, embedded within a larger monsoon gyre, so it is going to inevitably begin to come back south and lose some latitude as Emong comes up from the southeast side of that gyre. So we may see some of this rainfall come into Taiwan, but the good news with this sort of a shear vector is that most of the rain is going to be kept onto the northeast side, and hopefully we can limit there how much rainfall we get in Taiwan from that. But of course, with the mountainous terrain here, not too much rainfall can cause a lot of big issues, especially with what we've had over the past couple of weeks. We've certainly had a lot of rainfall across Taiwan, especially. This is a current forecast from Pagasa. You can see remaining a tropical storm as it comes through the Japanese islands today, but weakening as it tracks further west and interacts with Emong. And both of these systems are going to be interacting more intimately in this part of the world. It will be true that Emong is going to be tracking north into this region with time. You can see this on this track forecast from Pagasa, but it will also be weakening. So we're not expecting either of these systems to be very strong, but both of them interacting like this can bring increased tropical storm force winds and heavy rainfall across these islands over the next few days. Here's a rainfall forecast from the European ensemble. Like I showed you yesterday, you can see the very heavy rainfall expected from Emong in the Philippines. Again, some totals in localized spots may exceed 300 or 400 millimeters of rainfall. And you can see across the southern Japanese islands and Taiwan, a general swath of 100 to 150 millimeters can be expected, with some locally higher totals in the mountainous terrain of Taiwan. Okay, finally, a brief mention of newly formed TD12 in the tropical Pacific. You can see a broad area of low pressure that is formed here in the Mariana Island chain, and it's arguable if the system has enough convective organization to be called a tropical depression, but nonetheless, it is a tropical disturbance that's pushing through the islands today. And you can see the system is being sheared pretty strongly out of the north and northwest from the large gyre that we have with Francisco and Emong further northwest. And this is forecast to persist over the next few days and will keep the system from intensifying really at all as we go throughout the next several days. So across these islands, most you can expect is tropical storm force winds and increased heavy rainfall. And we do, I believe, have some tropical storm watches that have been put in place near Guam. And I'll leave a link to the Weather Service website for Guam in the description so you can see those watches and warnings. Now, it's possible that we do see some intensification with this system as it continues tracking north. Models are taking this up east of Japan and stalling it out here in the middle of the ocean. It remains to be seen what it does beyond that point. Some models are trying to show it sneak west, maybe get closer to landmass, and some are trying to just show it escaping out to sea. That's just some we'll have to see in time, as it's going to be a bit uncertain the next few days because the system is still so weak right now. That's all that I've got for today. Stay safe in the Philippines, Taiwan, and the southern Japanese islands as these two storms come through. And I'll have more videos, particularly on 12W as we go forward, as these systems begin to weaken away. And like I mentioned, I'll leave links to local weather offices that I can find, like Pagasa or the Central Weather Administration as well, in the description so you can see the latest information on all of these storms as they progress. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.